Wordsmiths is brought to you by Oli Arts, the South Sound's premier arts and culture magazine. The craft of writing is just the worst. I'm sorry. But you got your outlining, your first draft, editing, revisions, what you think is your final draft, more revisions, constant self-doubt, your actual final draft, and honestly, just a whole mess and set of problems. It's a hard-ass job. And sometimes it can get really lonely. But it doesn't have to be like that. After you write your story, it's probably time to share it. Lately, writers are finding one another. They're amassing, globbing onto each other in droves, and they're sharing their stories. I know what you're thinking. A bunch of introverts in a single room doesn't exactly sound like a party. But surprisingly, it's actually pretty fun. Writers are coming together to create communities of support and celebration of the written word. Here in the Pacific Northwest, one such group is called Creative Colloquy. Hello, I'm here with Jackie Casella and Joshua Swainston of Creative Colloquy. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Now, can you tell me what Creative Colloquy is all about?
Creative Colloquy is it's a community. We're based out of Tacoma, and our mission is to essentially support our literary culture in Tacoma. And we do that by providing a variety of different platforms. We have an online site that publishes monthly. We also do monthly events, as well as just kind of other community gatherings. And the idea is to highlight the diversity of the literary community here in Tacoma.
So how did Creative Colloquy start?
Creative Colloquy started from a lot of badgering people to do things that didn't want to. It started out with a small magazine called Wrist that Jackie was the editor of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was only around for about 8 months. It was a really great way to kind of start seeing the storytelling community kind of come out of their little solitude and their little homes. And we were hosting monthly events, not quite monthly, but we were hosting reading events in the area. And through that, there were a lot of relationships that were built with people that just love the written word. And when it went away, and I was no longer playing as editor, we still kind of had this little core community of people that really kind of felt the void.
There was about 10 of us that kept going back to coffee and would meet up for drinks and whatever, and we
it kept coming up.
Yeah, we talk about where we were in our writing, and then at the end of every time we'd be like, why isn't anybody doing another literary magazine? We need something in the South Sound that's ours, that we could attend and we can promote and be part of. Jackie, why aren't you doing that? And it just kept turning into, at the end of every one,
I'm not really sure
like, Jackie, why aren't you doing that
I'm
yet?
not really sure how it came. Maybe it's because I was responsible for the events beforehand, but it kind of became like, I was like, I don't know. Somebody should do that. Somebody should. And kind of got to the point where I was like, well, why don't I just do it? Like, what do we have to lose? So then in turn, I returned the badgering by being like, if I do this, I really need you guys to show up. And I need you to write these stories, so we have like a platform, so we have a website to kind of introduce ourselves. And so that's how it all started. It really was just kind of connecting with a few people and hoping that somebody would show up.
Yeah,
and they did.
Yeah, that first reading, we had like 65 people show up, and we did not expect that at all, because it was really just us initially. Mm-hmm. It was just maybe about 10 of us that knew this was all happening, and then Jackie put out stuff in different...
we got a lot of media support.
Yeah, we got a lot of media support just right off the bat.
Yeah.
From Tacoma Weekly and the Weekly Volcano, and we put out notices in the TNT and on the list servers and whatnot, and then all of a sudden just full room.
Why do you think the community latched onto this so quickly?
I think there was a noticeable void at the time for writers to share their work. We have a lot of poetry groups and open mics in that sense in the area, but there wasn't anywhere where people who wrote short stories, which was kind of our initial focus, for them to kind of connect and share stories. I don't think that really was a thing quite yet. And so I think there's just a noticeable void that people also felt was there.
Right, and at the same time, we're so focused on just the South Sound. I mean, anybody from Western Washington can submit, but we just focus on the South Sound, that we're accessible. And it's not like you're sending stuff to Ohio or to New York or something, and
Right.
you're competing against thousands and thousands of people to get submitted or to get published. You're competing against your peers. You're competing against people that you probably bump into from time to time. So it's neat that
And your audience is your community.
is your community. So
Yeah.
it's everybody is in it together. So people see it as a community and they want to be part of it. It's not just some far off like review in a college somewhere. It's something you can be part of and actually just show up to and be involved in.
Was this originally just intended to be for Tacoma and it grew into South Sound, or did you have the idea for it to be South Sound entirely from the bat?
I think the Tacoma was the central.
Tacoma was the central, and then we realized there's smaller communities kind of all around us and other cities that were willing to kind of come to the events and wanting to be a part of it. And we felt like we were really, binding ourselves by just saying Tacoma. It just kind of felt like
Right.
to broaden it to the South Sound gave us more of an opportunity to highlight more of those talents.
And we had friends in Olympia, Alec Clayton and Christian Carvajal. And then we had some people out on the western side of the state, like Paulsbo area and whatnot, who were wanting to submit as well. And it just seemed that Tacoma's, though great it is as it is, it's not. It was limiting us just to be like, okay, only city limits.
Right.
That once we open it up to South Sound or even Western Washington, it just opens up a lot of doors right there. And as long as people are willing to come to the readings and be part of the community as a whole, then they're welcome.
So I was going to ask, who do you usually take submissions from, and how might they submit?
Submissions are technically anywhere on Western Washington. We do give a little bit of preferential treatment to the South Sound because they are local and they are able to get to the readings, and that's what we use the publications for. They can submit via our website. We have a submittable connection through our website where you just click on the submit here and go through that process. It's pretty simple. Just add in your personal information and attach the document. And then it gets sent off in a totally blind submission process. It gets sent off to our editors, and then they pick from there. But it is all Western Washington, and we'll take whatever we see, and not necessarily whatever we get, but we see a lot of stuff from. I mean, we get stuff from people in Bellingham, people in Vancouver. We get people up in the mountains, and people on the coast, and we're always surprised at who finds us.
So how has Creative Colloquy, how's it operated, and how has that changed over the years?
Well, in the beginning, it literally, like the first event was just me asking favors for my writer friends to show up. I kind of did the outreach for that. And after that first event, Josh, who was kind of number one nudger of we should have a thing, was like, okay, I'm in. Like, where can I help? Tell me what to do. And so for a long time, it was actually just Josh and I bouncing ideas off of each other. And a lot of the time, because neither of us have any like formal experience with running a literary site or doing any of this, so it was a matter of like, can we do this, because this would be really cool. And so we would bounce ideas off of each other and just get ideas and then do it. Since then, we've taken on more of a nonprofit structure. So we adopted more formal titles, so director, assistant director. We have a board, we have an editorial team, and we have a PR team. And they're all amazing. We've met most of them through CC at some point in time, through the CC journey. They've come to events, they've submitted work, and they all wanted to volunteer in some aspects. So we kind of had like a big powwow and kind of talked about like, what would this look like? What would you want to do, to even see if it was really plausible. And since then, it's still, events are primarily done by me. Although we do have a PR team that's pretty amazing that helps me do like posters, because I don't do good posters, and things of that nature, where it has kind of polished, the Creative Colloquy brand, you will. Yeah. And really nobody tells us no. We're still like, we should do this. And all of them are such supporters of the CC community that they're enthusiastic about it, and they have great ideas too. So we can kind of incorporate those things into what we do.
So, with nobody telling you no, with all these projects, can you tell me about some of these projects? Like, what were some interesting ones that you've done?
We have the crawl,
For sure.
which it's been kind of an adventure, just planning anything that large scale involving that many venues with that many people.
Can you explain what the crawl is?
So it's a large scale literary gathering. I don't even know, because we can't call it a festival. I don't even know what to call it for sure, but it's a variety of different readings scheduled at different venues each hour for 3 hours. And the idea is that we really have like that one night with that window of time to highlight as many different types of storytelling as we can. So we've had, singer-songwriters, poetry, screenwriters, short stories, sometimes themed. We've had scary stories. We've kind of had all of it to just have kind of the opportunity to celebrate the written word and maybe challenge someone's idea of what storytelling has to look like or has to be. And it's done in a way so that each hour you kind of have to make your own itinerary. So you have to choose one reading each hour, and you have like 4 or 5 to choose from, and kind of go through the evening. So it's fun at the end of the night to see people come to the after party and see who saw what they thought about it, and everyone's kind of talking about it a little bit because they're all so different from each other. And we've done 2 years now, and both have been attended by about 300 or so, which feels really good. I mean, and I feel like that's just kind of the beginning.
And again, that was we had no idea. We advertised through what little means we could advertise with almost no money. We put together flyers, and then we were just like, well, let's hope it works.
Yeah, made a program, and people showed up. Yeah,
300 people show up to the first one, and no idea.
So, besides projects, you guys also, like, your big thing is doing live events. How do you run live events?
The live events are the same every month in structure. We always start with featured readers that are published on our website. And those are chosen really just based off of who we're either publishing that month or maybe someone that we haven't seen in a while. And then we follow that up with an open mic, which is open to anyone. All genres are featured. So there's really no boundaries as far as that's concerned. And when scheduling...
Except for erotica and fan fiction. Because erotica, just because it doesn't play
Fair
well,
enough.
and there's other places that do it better than we do. And fan fiction because there's copyright issues.
Yes. Those are the only boundaries, genre-wise. And I try to, as much as possible, when curating the featured portion, of making it as diverse as possible. We have a lot of different types of storytellers, and some people are kind of the same stylistically or genre-wise. So I try to pick 4 or 5 people that are kind of a little different from each other, but there remains kind of a flow.
So, live readings are composed of, pre-selected readers and open mic. Which one do you generally like more, and for like what reasons?
Ooh.
What do you think?
I have a tendency to favor the featured readers only because the featured readers contribute to the website, and I'm pushing always to get more readers and more writers on the website. So the more people that we have featured and the better they do, the more likely then other people will submit. But we have seen some very impressive open mic things that we just never anticipated happening.
I'm always surprised, honestly. I can't say that I favor one or the other because I feel like the event in its entirety is kind of like where the magic is for me. I always say like CC's a little bit of magic. For me, because I always, even if I'm the one who asks the featured readers to show up, they always surprise me a little bit, because we tell them you can read either what you've submitted or you can bring whatever you'd like. And they always kind of surprise me. I just never... Sometimes there's like themes that pop out that are unplanned. Like sometimes everyone has a squirrel in their story, or one night everybody had sex in their story, which I was like, oh, I did not plan this. That's a little risque, guys. And so I just feel like the entire thing, kind of seeing it unravel and seeing how different it is every single month. And we've been doing it for over 3 years now, and every single one of them has like a little bit of what makes that night special. So I just love it all, honestly. My favorite is first time readers, ever. Anyone that comes on stage is like, I've never done this before, and I'm like, yeah, and I want to get a confetti gun and make like a big deal out of it. Because it's just really exciting when someone feels that comfortable to kind of make that leap and allow themselves to be vulnerable is my favorite kind of dynamic.
People come to these events all the time. Has there been a change in your community since Creative Colloquy began? And how have you seen it? How have you seen your community evolve?
I think the base of the community is still there, and some of like the original core group that were kind of talking about it and planning it and hoping for it. And we still focus on short stories. I think we just, we love our short literary fiction. We love our essayists. But we've definitely become more inclusive. I think we've been seeing a lot more poetry, both online and on stage. But we've grown. I mean, the level of like the quality of talent and the diversity of the people that show up, I think has shifted. Our first open mic, we had 3 people show up. 60 people in the room, 3 people for open mic. Since then, we've gotten up to about 20 people for open mic, which is why we're a little more firm on time constraints. But it's great that we've kind of reached that community of people that want to share their words. But that's definitely been a big change, just kind of how many people in the room are fellow writers.
They just need to submit more often.
They do.
We
Each
want
and
more
every one of
submitters.
them.
More submitters are better. Because we'll give them more time. We'll give them a chunk of more time if they submit and they become a featured reader.
So, what has surprised you most about this whole Creative Colloquy journey?
How quickly it got accepted by the community. I think both Jackie and I really anticipated it being kind of a slow start, because again, we knew people, but we didn't know that people we didn't know were going to show up. And we didn't know if this was going to last more than a few months. Literary journals, and typically, especially when there's fledgling literary journals, if they don't have a huge amount of support, money behind them, initially they only last about a year.
Yeah, the support that we've received has been like overwhelming. Just kind of seeing people show up is really kind of exciting. Like every single month when I walk into a room and I'm like, I don't know a lot of faces, and that feels good that somehow, and I have no idea like what that magic ingredient is. I don't know how it happened from day one. Somehow CC, just the right time, right place, we've had the opportunity to connect with this many people. It was kind of a surprise.
Initially Jackie and then later myself were putting this together essentially for our friends and for ourselves. Yeah. And then we didn't anticipate everybody else to just show up, and they did.
And want that too. Yeah.
It's like you're teenagers where you have like a little house party for your friends, and then the entire high school shows up, and you're just like, I guess that's what's happening now. Yeah. Guess we got to order a lot more pizza.
And the fact that the momentum has continued for this long.
Right.
I mean, I just think it's kind of nice, because you never know going into it.
So my last question, what in your opinions makes a really good story?
For me, it has to do with a shared catharsis. I enjoy when there's an emotional release that you get as a reader that maybe the writer didn't necessarily intend for you to have, but you're sharing in this moment with the writer and with the characters and in that entire world, that this moment, it might just be enraged, it might be crying, it could be anything, but when it gets you to actually feel something, that's the best. That's the whole point, right? That's what you're trying to do.
I really can't say that any better than what Josh just said. Honestly, it just like when it just resonates, when it could just like hit you like right in some little kernel somewhere, and you're like, oh, and then you go home and you're still thinking about it. It's a good story. You want more?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you both for sitting with me today and talking with me about Creative Colloquy.
Thanks for having us.
You can find more info at creativecolloquy.com. And if you're in the South Sound, submit your work. What's the worst that could happen? So, here's your homework. Try to find a local writing group within your area. They don't necessarily have to operate like Creative Colloquy either. Besides readings, a lot of writing groups just meet and give feedback to one another. Don't just let your words sit and rot away in that laptop. Share that stuff. First step though, you gotta get writing. So get to it. Ugh, this is gonna take forever. Wordsmiths is sponsored by Oleards and is part of the Main Street Writers Movement. Check out our sponsor at oleards.org and learn more about the movement at forestavenuepress.com/Main Street Writers Movement. Did you like the music? I did too! Tunes for this episode were provided by local musician Christian Carpenter, also known as the artist Food Nipple. Head over to his Bandcamp and purchase the first Wordsmiths EP at foodnipple.bandcamp.com.